Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we are talking about the weekend release of Heart Eyes. This is a new slasher film that's, out and about for the Valentine's Day season. We've got a couple of horror movies that actually have come out, for Valentine's Day, but this is the one that we chose to go to this weekend. Of course, this next weekend we got Miss Captain America, so excited for that. But we're here to tell you our thoughts on Heart Eyes. We're gonna start with um, our non-spoiler thoughts on it first, give it a rating, and then we'll talk about some spoilers with the movie. So, what I will start with is that if you're not aware, this is the kind of movie I would compare it a lot to Scream or Thanksgiving. I'd probably, gear it more towards Thanksgiving since it has a holiday theme to it. But it's kind of the who done it type situation. Who's the person going around? It's not a mindless slasher like Friday the 13th where it's this person that's indestructible kind of a thing. So we're kind of supposed to be in that mindset of who's doing this, what's the motive, all that good stuff. And so that's what drew me into the movie because I love Scream for one. I also really liked Thanksgiving, but I also know how bad it can be done from Founders Day. So was this a good movie? Did they deliver? I would say it was good. I would say they were kind of safe with it. I feel like they knew what they wanted to do. They basically made this rom-com horror slasher film mix. That way it could kind of, appeal to those that want the romantic comedy side of things for Valentine's Day, and it also appeals to those that want a little bit more of that slasher film. There's actually a very famous uh horror film that's a Valentine's movie. I think it's called My Bloody Valentine. So like it's not unheard of to have well-known slasher films for Valentine's Day. So I think they were trying to merge those two together and I think they did a pretty good job. My only my only real problem with it is that I think they played it a little safe here this time. I think they checked the boxes that they knew that they had to do to accomplish what they wanted to, but they didn't take it a step further. For me, since like I said, I really liked the Scream films. I really liked Thanksgiving. I really enjoy the idea of trying to find out who's doing all this stuff. And in this movie, because we're flipping between the romantic comedy and the slasher part so much, there's a lot of times where I found myself pulled out of wondering who was doing all this stuff, or is it just, a character like Jason where they just it's somebody that hates Valentine's Day and they never die, they just kill couples. What is it? And so whenever they would switch to the romantic comedy type of that stuff, I would forget about what's going on with the killer and then just kind of stop guessing. So I feel like that game was kind of taken away out of this film. Maybe some people like it, maybe some don't. Um, the only other thing that I thought was slightly annoying with this film, so this isn't a spoiler, but our main character, the girl, her name's Allie. She works for a company where she's making like advertisements for jewelry and stuff. And her boss, which her boss's name is Crystal, if this isn't the case for what I'm about to say, then it was really weird acting, but there was a scene where her boss was giving a monologue and you could literally see her eyes going back and forth. And I'm like, is she really reading off of a board or something right now? Like, it is incredibly obvious. And it wasn't like she was looking at, different people in the room because they were in a conference room. It was just constantly back and forth, the same spot. So I thought that was a little annoying. It's one of those things that you start to pick up on the more you see films because you start to enjoy how these films are made. And that was one thing that really annoyed me. But it's only like 10 seconds of the film, so it got over quick. But at the same time, it's like you could have cleaned that up. Um, what'd you think?
Well, for one, I'm really glad I didn't notice that aspect because that would have annoyed me.
It was very annoying.
But I, I agree with the bulk of what you're saying. I think there going into this, I didn't really expect it to be like a rom-com. Maybe it's just because I didn't really remember the trailer. I don't know, but I thought it was just going to be a bit more of like a murder mystery type thing, and the mass hysteria and focus more on that. So having the bits of the romantic comedy part, that was a little weird for me to because I just wasn't expecting it. The comedy, I'm used to that because you need comedic relief, but the Hallmarky type like oh my gosh, he's so beautiful. Those type moments. It was kind of weird and felt out of place a bit. Um, Although I will say he was cute. But uh I think you're talking about it kind of comparing to Scream and missing that whodunit aspect. I think that was a major piece that this was lacking. I wish that part of the romance part of it might have been a let's Scooby-Doo this thing and try to figure out who this is. And there was never any let's try to figure out who this is. Like maybe with the police a little bit because that's their job, but I wish our main protagonist would have teamed up and focused on that aspect more. Um,
If I could interject right there too, um, because it going off of that, I'm not gonna say who done it, but what I will say is once you get the reveal of who is doing all this stuff, it's almost a major letdown because you have zero attachment to the characters that are doing these things. So the the killer reveals themselves throughout the film. Of course, that we find out like even in the Scream movies, it's always somebody that's around, right? So the times that we see them on camera when they're unmasked and we don't know that that's the person, there's not enough time there to actually care about these characters. There's even one where uh I guess I'm not trying to spoil it. Maybe I spoiled it minorly there, but there's just not enough time to care about the killer. I'll just say that. And then when we get to the spoilers, I'll elaborate a little bit more. And I honestly, I think the studio cheated a little bit about how to care about the killer, and I'll talk about that in spoilers. So I don't want to give away too much, especially since that's the whole point of this film is the whodunit situation. Um, what I will say, in addition to it, I think our lead actor and actress did a good job. I'm pretty sure Mason Gooding, who plays Jay, the guy that Sarah was talking about, that was very yummy on screen. I'm pretty sure he was in Scream as well. So like
yes.
he's not.
He also, surprise for you, was in Fall, because I know you've seen that movie, where the two girls are like
Oh,
atop a radio tower or
yeah, he
something
was
like
the
that.
boyfriend that died, which isn't a spoiler. For people, that is a very good movie, though. I would recommend seeing Fall. I watched it on an airplane, so a movie that is about being afraid of heights, and then I was on an airplane. It was great. Um, so I thought that the couple did a good job. Let's see some of the other actors and actresses. We had Jordana Brewster, which we all know from Fast and the Furious, so it was cool to see her here. Uh, we also have, I don't really recognize any of the other people, but one of the funny things about Jordana's character, so she plays a detective in this movie, and her partner, or, you know, partner in crime for the police stuff, his name, so her name is
Her
Detective Shaw,
coworker.
huh?
Her coworker.
Yeah, her coworker. Her coworker, hold on. Her name is Detective Shaw. Her coworker, the other FBI agent, is Detective Hobbs, and it's kind of funny that they even make fun of the Hobbs and Shaw movie at one point in here, which I thought was kind of funny because I know the main group of the Fast and the Furious people really didn't like that movie was made, aside from uh, the Fast Family, I will call it. So it was kind of funny that they used those names and then they're like, never heard of that movie before. Kind of so I thought it was humorous. Um, I don't think. Did you pick up on that joke?
I did not, but I haven't seen Hobbs and Shaw.
Well, they probably don't want you to. They don't want that movie to be supported. The movie wasn't that
I,
bad,
I
honestly.
recognized the name pairing when they said that, but the joke didn't land for me.
Gotcha. All right, well, we'll go ahead and give some ratings here. I will say that this movie was, I think this movie's above average, but I think they played it a little too safe. I think it would definitely draw the attention of people that are casual horror fans. Like you don't dive really out there deep into all the crazy like gory stuff and whatnot. Like this movie, although it
There were
does
some
have
times I had to look away.
there's this movie has gore, but I don't it it
Not,
wasn't like it
it's not like
wasn't like
Saw.
Saw, yeah, where it's very, very in your face, super. I almost feel like the violence was almost kind of cartoonish in a way, if that's the way to call it. Um, it was silly. That's what I would say. It was kind of like silly horror. So I think it'll appeal to the rom-com people that don't mind dipping their toes into the slasher genre. They're not going to go into this one and walk out throwing up, so to speak. Um, so I'd probably give this movie a 6, a good 6 out of 10. What about you?
I've been debating this whole time. Mm, I feel like it's above average. I feel like it's a pretty decent movie for like a Valentine type date night trying to appeal to guy and girl or whatever, the two different ideas of horror and uh rom-com, whichever way you want to lean. Um I feel like they did a pretty decent job of meshing those things. I really wish we had more of the whodunit aspect and a little bit more of like the mystery type aspect because I feel like that part was kind of missing. Um, gosh, I think I'm gonna land at a 7. I was debating pretty hard between a 6 and a 7. I think I gotta land at a 7. I think they at least did a good job of trying to mix those two genres together. And it overall the movie was pretty good. I would watch it again maybe.
Let's say I think I would rather watch Scream just because I feel like they're the ones as far as I know, they're the ones that kind of started this genre and uh, they've capitalized on it pretty well. Um,
Scream's just a franchise that I never really got super into. I've seen one or two of them, and I'm not saying they're bad movies. They're just not ones that I'm super attached to.
so before we go into spoilers, one question I have for you is, so in one of the interviews, I think it was the director, writer, somebody along those lines. They had so much faith in this movie that they believe that the Heart Ice Killer could be as iconic as characters like Freddy, Jason, all those big names. Do you think that this could become a cultural phenomenon?
I think that you said it was a director.
It was like director, writer, somewhere in there.
Okay. I think they'd be stupid not to say something like that because of course they want to hype up their own movie and get people to watch it. That's my initial opinion. Um, do I think that this will become something like that? I have my doubts. With those types of things, you really gotta have a franchise more than just one movie. And are we into spoilers yet?
No, we're doing this before spoiler.
Okay. Um, so I'm trying to keep my opinion spoiler free here. I I don't see this becoming as a cultural phenomenon. I could see it maybe being a fad, but I don't think it's gonna last.
Yeah. I think it'll be at Universal Horror Nights this year for sure. Especially, I don't know who's the publisher for this one. I feel like it would have to be Universal since they mentioned the Fast and the Furious movie, but maybe that's not always the case. It's
I just remember the Spyglass Media.
distributed by Screen Gems and Republic Pictures. I don't know, but it's whatever. But we can move into the spoilers now. Okay. So we talked about that this is that one of those whodunit type films, right? And it's also a mixture of a rom-com. So the movie does open up with us being introduced to the killer. They're doing there's a couple that is trying to take a picture of their engagement, like when the fiance, the guy proposes to the girl. They're trying to get this picture of that moment. It's even scripted. Like they try to do it, they see if the cameraman got it. We even know that it's scripted, even beyond that, because even the girl is mouthing the words that she knows that, her soon-to-be husband is gonna be saying to her. It was like their first attempt at comedy in this film. But before we know it, the slasher kills the cameraman and then kills the husband, fiance, the guy, and then chases after the girl. And the girl eventually gets shot in the leg with an arrow, and she's hobbling to a nearby, I don't know what it, maybe it's a mill.
They're at a winery, so it was
Oh,
like a grape smasher for wine.
perfect. So she runs in there. There's a security guard's like, you can't be in here. And she's like, someone's chasing me. And then he gets killed. And so she tries to hide in the squishing machine. And then she gets squished and dies. So then we see a bunch of clips about news reportings of the Heart Eyes Killer, which has been doing this for a while now. And basically, from what we know, is that it's just a murderer that goes around on Valentine's Day and kills couples. And so then we kind of switch to the rom-com side of things, where we get to meet our main character, Allie. And Allie she's working, at this jewelry place, and she's in charge of making commercials to promote the jewelry. And she's on the verge of losing her job. She goes to get her coffee in the morning and finds out that there's somebody else that has her exact same order, which is this very easy on the eyes Jay that she runs into. And they even have this like funny interaction where they bonk heads and all the tropes you would get from uh, a romantic comedy. And then she even gives him a bloody nose at one point on accident. And so then she leaves, she goes to her work, which is where we get the monologue thing I was talking about that I thought was kind of crappy from her boss, where the boss looks like she's reading off of a prompt. I'm telling you, a news segment person could definitely have acted way better in this spot because news people read off teleprompters all the time. So this one could have been better. But anyways, what we find out is that Allie is about to lose her job, and somebody else, is gonna have to come in and clean up the mess because she made a bad commercial. She was trying to sell love and jewelry off of death, which I thought was an interesting take on it, but of course, nobody else did in the movie. And she come to find out the person that's supposed to be, saving her butt is in fact Jay, the person that she met at the coffee shop. And so they have to work together to try to fix what she has done. So he decides, well, maybe we can talk it over dinner. And so he books a very fancy restaurant and they go there to meet for dinner. She feels that this is 100% a work thing, but when he gets there, he's even talking to her about, where are you from? Trying to get to know her. And so it's kind of like this weird thing where, she wants it to be business, but it feels like he's trying to be a little bit more relational to her. Even her best friend is telling her like, "Oh my God, this dude is hot. You have to, get in there and get that date." Um, Also because Allie is, coming off of, was it a divorce or was it that he cheated on her? Do you remember?
I think they said she broke up with him, and I don't remember the reason why.
Gotcha. So she's coming off of a relationship herself, and she's even obsessed with what's going on with him because she's always checking pictures of him in her news feed on her phone. But
Yeah,
she's very
I think she
defensive.
was struggling because she broke up with him, but he moved on really fast, and so that upset her because she thought she was in control by being the one to break up with him, but then he just moved on and was with a new girl like right away.
Makes sense. Uh, so she has like this barrier that she's putting up between her and another relationship. So even when it starts to feel a little bit like someone's kind of interested, she like freaks out. Like she even during this dinner just rips on him about, his intentions, blah blah blah, and he's this and that because of what he's doing, and it's really off-putting and he decides to leave. She chases after him because she feels really bad about what she said, and when her when she's talking to him, she can see over his shoulder. We can't see as an audience member, but she can see over his shoulder that her um, the ex-boyfriend is approaching with his new girlfriend, and so Allie lays one on Jay, a good old big smooch, to, in my opinion, try to make her former boyfriend Ben jealous. And so they see them there. They find out that Ben and his girlfriend were supposed to be having dinner with the couple that was just murdered by Heart Eyes. And so Allie and Jay think it's really weird that, why would you still have your dinner reservation if, they're not going to be there? And so Ben and his girlfriend are like, well, it'll be in their honor. And so, I mean, this was like my first initial thing of, is this gonna be, the killer? Is it gonna be, her former boyfriend and his new girlfriend? Are they just crazy together? There's also a small hint where the detectives, Detective Hobbs and Shaw, they go to the crime scene for the girl that got smashed in the winery. There's a ring that was left behind there that said JS, which is the initials for Jay. I forget his last name, but
Simmons.
Simmons. Oh yeah, because I kept thinking it was like J. Jonah, like J.K. Simmons. But
Yep.
um, so those are like our only two hints of maybe who this killer is. Thankfully, it's not like the Acolyte where they tell us who it is within the first 5 minutes and then it's no longer a mystery the rest of the way. But we just gotta keep picking at that scab, right, people? Um, so what happens after this, Sarah?
Um, so they take a cab to her apartment. She's gonna leave and say goodnight and stuff, but she can't find her keys. And so he goes up like, well, we'll break into the apartment together because you got a spare key. You just got to get past this like front entry door. So they go up there.
Who does
Um,
that, anyways?
I don't know. It seemed really weird to me, but I neither one of them seemed to have an issue with it.
Well,
But I get
she said, I'm really good friends with the landlord. We'll just break the window and pay for it later. I was like, what?
talk about a safety issue. Hello, like now
Kidding.
anybody can get in. I wouldn't like that neighbor of mine.
Nope.
Um, So he busts his hand up on the glass a little bit. So they go up to her apartment. That way she can patch him up. And we've got some, a little bit of comedy pieces, because her apartment is a total mess. There's nowhere to sit. So he's got to sit on her bed. And of course, she's got some fun items on her nightstand she doesn't want him to see. So she's trying to hide that stuff. And this is when, I'm pretty sure this is in the trailer, the Hard Eyes Killer comes out of her closet.
Yep.
This was kind of confusing to me. I didn't really understand how they got in the closet. I know she said she thought that she left her keys in one of the dressing rooms because before their like dinner date thing, she had gone shopping for new clothes. But once we found out who the killer was, I'm just like, how did they get into the apartment? Like it didn't make any sense to me. It seemed very weird and awkward because they said that they picked them based on their kiss. So like from the time of their kiss to them getting to the apartment, somehow the Hard Eyes Killer got to the apartment first, knew exactly where to go, and then hid in the closet. Like it just seemed a little too easy. Um,
I didn't like it either.
but Anyway, so we've got to run in with the hard eyes killer now coming out of the closet, and they trap them in the bedroom, or so they think. They try to get away in the taxi cab, but then the taxi cab driver gets shot by an arrow, I think, from either an arrow or gunshot.
It's the
Um,
crossbow thing.
gotcha. So even though they thought that the Hard Eyes Killer was locked up in the bedroom, somehow they're out here and shooting the taxi cab drivers. Now we're in like a long chase scene, going through some botanical gardens and some weird carnival type playground type area. Like it looks like a playground, but there's a merry-go-round, which is really strange. Like with the horses and everything. Like it's I don't know.
It's from the trailer too.
It just seemed odd that that was like at a playground. I've never seen that before. But then again, well, I was gonna say maybe it's because we don't have nice enough weather to have something like that outside, but I'm pretty sure this takes place in Seattle, Washington, where it rains like all the time. So I don't know that that would really make sense either.
We're not supposed to think of that.
But anyway, so moving on, they think they caught the Heart Eyes killer at this point, right? But the detectives have Jay in the car because they say they found him in the park with the mask on, right? So I thought it was kind of odd that she was so sure that it wasn't him because I guess she did see him and the Hard Eyes Killer at the same time, but she also just met this guy, so how does she know that he's not involved? Like it just seemed she seemed to trust him a little too much. Um, I don't know. She had only met him like 6 hours before this thing, so seemed to me like he could have been involved. Maybe not the exact person that was chasing them because, they were being chased by somebody else, but
Yeah, it's so. I mean, I know because you haven't seen a lot of the Scream movies lately, but one of the things that's been really picking up with these types of movies is that there's two people. And so my thought process with this was, okay, if he's involved, maybe he's got a brother, maybe he's got a friend, something that's going on here where he's kind of taking the fall right now just so that they get the eyes off of the other person. So that's kind of where my brain was at this point.
yeah. Um, so where do we go from here?
They go to the jail.
Oh, yep. Yep. So she's stuck in the lobby because he's being questioned, and we get a lot of the power seems to go out. Everything's kind of weird and freaky. She thinks that somebody's in the closet, and of course nobody's there, but then somehow the hard eyes killer is like hiding in the corner of the room. Um, we get some little comedic moments. I think somewhere in this I think when Jay's being questioned, is this when he asks about the Hobbs, makes the Hobbs and Shaw joke? I think so.
Um, I don't remember exactly if this was the spot. I do remember that because I thought that was like one of the very first interactions we had with the cops was when they brought that up. But there, there's another key thing here in this police station is that so while Jay is getting interrogated by the cops, there are FBI people, Detective Shaw and Detective Hobbs. Allie is talking to like the front desk person, and the front desk person is having some issues with, I think it was the Wi-Fi or something. And
Something was wrong
so
with their computer.
she had a tech support dude checking it out. That's kind of one of their jump scares because he gets up from underneath the desk and he says to Allie, like, "Don't I know you?" And she's like, "No." And he's like, "Well, what about this dating app?" And she's, "Nope, not me." And so that was kind of like a weird interaction that they had there, but we'll talk about this spot a little bit later.
Doesn't he ask her out on a date?
Oh yeah, he's like, "I'm just gonna shoot my shot here for a second."
Yeah. And
So
she's
yeah,
like,
they have their
well,
little tussle in the police station with Heart Eyes because Heart Eyes shows up there, and then they make it out of the jail and they head towards a drive-in. They try to go somewhere where they can, try to hide from this Heart Eyes killer, and unfortunately, they take their attention to a drive-in, which is where tons of people are. And so this is kind of where we get a little bit of a rom-com break from the slasher side of things because they're trying to find a place to hide. They eventually find a van that has a door unlocked, and so they just slip into it. Come to find out that the owners are in the back of the van, doing their thing, getting it on with each other.
The vans are rocking.
Yeah. Which I thought was kind of weird that they didn't take advantage of that comedic moment a little bit more. Like the scene is that Allie and Jay are talking to each other in the front seat while the other two are in the back doing their thing. And I thought it would have been kind of funny if, because they're focusing on Allie and Jay the entire shot. And it would have been funny if eventually they were like rocking back and forth while they were talking to each other because the van was, a rockin'. I thought that would have been hilarious, but they did not do that. Eventually, the Heart Eyes killer comes to the scene and is killing people. And so they open up the back door of this van and they murder the two people that were doing it in the back. But ultimately, what happens after this massacre is that Allie and Jay are able to. Did they kill the person or did they just knock them out?
I'm pretty sure they killed him.
Okay, so if they killed him, this was a fake person. They're like, who is this? And it was just somebody that was inspired by the Heart Eyes killer. They're like, there's no way it's this guy. Especially since eventually they see Heart Eyes again. It seems like everything is fine and dandy after this scene. I even checked my watch because it was like a typical end of the movie for something like this where the ambulance is there. They're like, "Oh my God, we survived." Blah 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 blah. The cops are like, "Congratulations, you made it." And I looked at my watch and I was like, "It's only been an hour. There's no way this movie's over right now." And so basically, what happens is that Allie finds out that Jay is going to be taking a flight to go somewhere else, and this could be her last opportunity to try to say, "Hey, I actually want to be your girlfriend." And so she goes to the airport trying to track him down. And when she thinks she found him, she hugs a random stranger and it's like, uh-oh, that's not the guy. And then she gets a phone call and from an unknown number, and it's Heart Eyes telling her that they have Jay and that she has to come to this church with nobody else with her or else they'll kill Jay. So she heads to the church, she finds Jay, and what we learn is that the Heart Ice Killer is actually two people. And the two people are Detective Shaw, so Jordana Brewster's character, and the tech guy from from the police station that was fixing the Wi-Fi. Now, this is what I mean by we didn't really have enough time with these characters to care about them. I was very disappointed that the tech guy was part of it because literally the only interaction we had with the tech guy was that he was fixing the Wi-Fi for 30 seconds. So his character really meant nothing throughout this whole film, but yet he's supposed to be this big payoff. I think the only way that people, like for myself, the only reason why that I cared and thought it was cool about Detective Shaw was that it was Jordana Brewster playing a killer for a change. She's always been a hero in the Fast and the Furious movies, so it's cool to see her be a villain. But from a character perspective, I feel like there was no way that we had enough time to even think that she was the cop. Of course, they go through this montage where it's like her character is trying to basically cover her tracks because there's this JS that could be the connection to the killer, how she's trying to basically plant this all on Jay. But at the same time, I don't know. I feel like the payoff just wasn't there. It wasn't like the end of Scream where it's like, no way, I didn't guess that person, but it makes sense. Or like the end of a Saw film where everything comes together and it's like, oh my God, now it all makes sense. There really wasn't that kind of a satisfactory moment at the end of the movie. It was more or less, well, I think it's cool that she got to play that role, but it is what it is. Um,
Well, I mean, she did take Jay home or offer him a ride home and was supposed to be taking him home and instead kidnapped him and used him as a hostage. So there was that little like quick payback of betrayal, I guess, right then and there. But
yeah,
throughout the whole film, she seemed a little off, but I thought it was just because she was single and not really into like dating anybody. They mentioned that that other Hard Eyes killer that got killed in the first place in the drive-in was like part of their throuple, but like that didn't make any sense either because we had no idea who he was. We'd never even learned his name.
right.
Like it could have been anybody. It didn't add anything to the story other than there was another person participating, I guess.
Yeah, I think it adds an element where if you actually care about the characters and then come to find out that, they were being deceptive this whole time, it's almost like you feel like you were being lied to by these characters the whole time. Like that's what makes it more real for the characters. So that's kind of why I really didn't like what was going on here. Like they knew what boxes they had to check and they did it, but there wasn't anything that went beyond it. I will say Jordana Brewster's character was like incredibly sexual towards her partner. Like she was licking his face and kissing him all over the place, and he seemed to not even bat an eye at it. It was very interesting to see how like I don't understand how you're lovers just because he doesn't do a whole lot. But the ending of the movie, so they have a tussle, with Allie and Jay, and it basically boils down to yes, they kill the killers. Um, they mentioned that Valentine's Day is from, I forget, was it Saint Valentine? I don't remember what they
Well, they were at
said.
the St. Valentine's Church.
Yeah. And so they could see that he was beheaded, and so they beheaded Detective Shaw to make it more fitting, just like that. I think the other guy's killing was a little bit more creative because I think Jay like shoved a thing through his eye and then eventually shoved another one through him. Um,
And he was covered in hot wax from the candles falling on him.
yeah, it was pretty brutal. I will say, so I'm not using IMDb this time to look at character names because for whatever reason the web page is a little messed up when we're recording this. But
I'll tell you why. When we were watching the film, because there is an after credit scene,
yeah.
and then they let the credits roll, they had the credits roll in order of appearance in the movie. So whoever appeared first in the movie got listed first in the credits, and IMDb matches that list, or at least the first couple.
Oh. But okay, so this is what I was gonna say. Because remember, I said that we really don't have much time with the second killer. Like we get a lot of time with the detective, but not the other one. When
Yep.
I Google Heart Eyes cast, that dude isn't even in the cast like the top people.
Yeah.
You have to click, and I don't even know if this is him. Um, if that guy's name is Chris Parker, um, I don't even think that other dude is on the list.
I don't remember his name.
I'm trying to see on IMDb if I even recognize. He would be pretty far down the list because he didn't show up until like past the halfway point.
Yeah. Well, while you're looking that up, the me thinking that this Hard Eyes killer might be a fad and not like a cultural phenomena, they kill them all at the end. All three Hard Eyes killers are gone. So unless you do like a whole copycat type thing, there's no coming back from this.
Well, I mean, that is how Scream works.
I suppose, but you didn't say they wanted to be like Scream. You said they wanted to be like Freddy and stuff like that. Like I don't know. I don't I don't see it surviving.
Yeah, that when you Google the cast does not show up because his name is Yosan An, if I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. I apologize for that, but Google doesn't even recognize this dude as a top cast member. So, any other thoughts on Hard Eyes, one of the things I thought was kind of cool, and it's one of those things where it's almost like playing I Spy when you're watching the movie. They had like different references to iconic horror movies throughout. So like when Allie was taking the taxi to the airport, on top of the taxi it said Freddy's Revenge and it had like the claw marks. So they're like referencing some of those other iconic killers in the movie, but it makes me wonder because like when they show these different things throughout the movie, it made me wonder if there was some sort of theme or something that was being reflective of in the scene. Like for instance, if with the Freddy Krueger thing, and I'm making this up, like what if she was like, "Oh my God, he's my dream boyfriend," or just talking about something to do with Freddy Krueger when that thing just, kind of glances across the screen. I
Yeah.
have to go back and watch it a second time to see if any of those things actually play out in that way, but I don't know if I will be watching it a second time.
Yeah, I didn't catch the billboard when we were watching it, so or the little advertisement, so I couldn't say one way or the other. The only thing I think we may have missed is just the ending of the movie, aside from the Hard Eye Killer aspect, is just that we're a year later now. Jay and Allie have been dating for that whole time, and he proposes to her with a key, asking to move in with me. She says, I don't want a key, so then she proposes with like an actual ring. She gets a creepy phone call after he says yes, and it's just her friend, Monica, who I guess very much like the very beginning of the movie, it's her being the photographer, getting the shot of the engagement. Um, and so that's our ending to the movie is that they get engaged.
Yeah. And really what they could do from here is like, you know, I don't know, maybe that girl ends up being jealous of their relationship and so then she turns into a hard eyes killer and continues the legacy. It's really not that hard for them to make things up like that. So if this movie does well, I could see it coming back on Valentine's Day 2 years from now, for sure. Until they can make all the monies. Anything else for the movie?
I think that about wraps it up. There's some other comedic spots, of course, that we could, talk about it for an hour covering all the different funny things, but um if you got nothing better to do and you want to go see a kind of funny movie, go see it.
I think just kind of thinking about all the different slashers that are out there for or horror movies in general for the Valentine's season. I think this one probably is going to be the best. I think it's the highest rated on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's see. Last I knew that this one was a fresh score. Heart Eyes is at 82% on the Rotten Tomatoes as of this recording. So it is pretty highly rated. The other one that's out called Love Hurts is at 18%. So much, much lower. As far as the audience reception, Heart Eyes is at 79. Love Hurts is at 64. So Love Hurts gets a little bit more from the audience, but Heart Eyes has won in both categories. Looks like Wolfman is still out, but I would probably pass on that. Yeah, looking at all the other ones. Yeah, the monkey doesn't come out until after Valentine's Day, so that's not going to count. All right, well, that was our talk on Heart Eyes. If you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We got Captain America coming this upcoming week, and then we'll have, I think, The Monkey is the week after that. So, looking forward to those movies and then talking to you about them. So, make sure to check back here. Drop us a like if you liked the video and drop us a comment letting us know your thoughts on Heart Eyes. And do you think that this killer is going to become iconic? And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.